Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My dear students, welcome to your 13th class for Speaking Skills course. Today we're going to cover the following topics. How to make agreement and disagreement using some expressions. Some of them are called partial expressions, other strong expressions, and other are constructive expressions. And then we were going to talk about three different levels of discussions. You know, we have some discussions for classroom, for academic discussion, and then we have different kind of discussion like debate discussions. For example, the political issues, or maybe like the Arab Spring nowadays. So we use debate discussions. Okay, we will differentiate between each one of them. And we will have some advices that you need to avoid some of the let me call it bad characteristics. When I say speaking characteristics, bad speaking habits, or maybe expressions, or maybe emotions. So we will talk about these three major points in this class. First of all, in business there are expressions that say, if two people always agree, only one is doing the thinking. في عالم البزنس, if two people always agree, only one is doing the thinking. Or, if two people always agree, one of them is probably not needed. Which means there must be or there should be disagreement between, or variety of opinions in order to take the business or the company forward. So we are talking about business conversation, business dialogue, okay? How can we participate constructively in controversial discussions? How can we do it? Well, what you should know that participating constructively in controversial discussions is not an easy task. It is challenging to figure out how to say what one to say without sounding harsh, offending someone, or creating bad feelings. وهذه لازم نركز عليها. We need to be good حواريين. الحوار هو أهم شيء، لكن للحوار أصوله. للأسف, some of the programs on the TVs or radios, they lack the right characteristics of the respectful conversation or dialogue. So it's not easy, first of all. It is challenging to figure out how to say what you want to say without sounding harsh, offending, or creating bad feelings. So we need to control our emotions when we converse with others, when we speak with others, when we talk to others. Most of us have never been taught هذه مهمة ركزوا عليها, how to express agreement or disagreement in a positive way. We usually attack, you're right, you're wrong, and that's it. In fact, often we learn early on that it is best not to disagree with others. Right? This is what they have taught. It's not a good idea to disagree with me. It's not a good idea to disagree with your professor. It's not a good idea to disagree with your father, to disagree with your friend. Well, sometimes disagreement may help your friend, may help your father, may help your professor from making mistakes, but they don't know these mistakes. So, we have never been taught how to express agreement or disagreement in a positive way. Discussions about complex topics can happen at 3 different levels. 3 different levels, which are going to be described below in the next slide. Although we might label these levels in different ways, the goal in academic environment and in good simulating dialogue anywhere should be the type of dialogue described in level 3. Like in our class, in the classrooms in the university, high school, and middle school, whatever, maybe in academic institution or education institution, we should actually use the type of number 3. Okay, let us now start from 3, then 2, then 1. First of all, level 3 dialogue. In this dialogue, the goal is primarily to try okay, so to try and then understand where each person is coming from and what makes them think the way they do. لاحظوا الآن في الحوار الأكاديمي the goal is to try. We just try to say something, and then you should understand where each person is coming from and what makes them think the way they do. People spend as much effort on really listening and probing to understand others as they do trying to explain what they think and why they think that way. لاحظتوا الآن؟ فالناس أو الحواريين in such dialogue, they spend a lot of efforts just listening, really listening. الإصغاء والاستماع للآخر. هذا أنا بحكي لكم في الحوار الأكاديمي. So we really listen and we really try to understand what they say and why do they think this way. And you need to explain that. What they think and why they think this way. هذا هو الحوار الأكاديمي اللي بنعيشه في الجامعات أو في المدرسة. Okay? First of all, try then understand what the person is saying and why he is saying this way, why he is thinking this way, where he's coming from or she's coming from. So all of these actually goals are underestimated in this level. Level 3, the academic one. Okay? Level 2, we have something called discussion. The goal is primarily to get to say your piece, your point of view. People are more interested in getting a chance to speak than listening to others' perspective and trying to understand where are they coming from. لاحظوا الآن الفرق ما بين the academic dialogue and the discussion. In the dialogue, we really listen and then we are actually, we really want to listen and we want to try. Okay? I want to understand his point, so I need to listen. لكن في discussion, I don't really listen carefully to what the other is saying. I just want to show my opinion, my perspective, and then I try to understand where these opinions coming from. Okay? So here we are more interested in getting a chance to speak than listening to others' perspective. Then I want to speak first, okay? This is what we call discussion. And the level number 1 is called debate. The goal is to prove that you are right and the other person is wrong. وهذا ما يحدث دائما في TV's programs, right? مثل اتجاه المعاكس مثلا. Or many of these programs that discuss political issues. They usually want to point out, oh, he's right and he's wrong. So things here are presented as a very black and a very white. Wrong or right. إما أبيض أو أسود. هذا ما نشاهده in the TV's political shows. So we have three different levels of discussion. The first one was dialogue, the academic one. We listen carefully, we speak, and then we try to say what we have, and then we want to understand. We really listen. Then we want to understand what he's saying, the way he's thinking, and why he's thinking so. Why he is thinking so. In the level 2, which is discussion, here we are more interested to speak than to listen, and then try to understand where these ideas are coming from. And then we have level number 1, the debate. Here we're trying to prove who is right and who is wrong. It's important to understand these three levels of discussions in order to prepare yourself. If you want, for example, if you have kind of a debate with someone, you need to follow some of the instructions that I will provide you with. Or maybe in the academic sessions, you need to choose your tone of voice, your words, your expressions. You need to control your feelings. You need to really listen to others. So this is why it's important to understand each of these levels. Good dialogue, although challenging, is incredibly thought-provoking and interesting. The good dialogue should be provoking, يثير الأفكار, and interesting, ممتع, where people are listening, they do not interrupt each other. And here it helps us learn about ourselves, others, and these complex words. The sentence thoughts below can help participants formulate input in dialogue. And we were going to see some of these expressions. Agreement first. We will start with agreement. Okay? Agreement expressions. And how to continue the dialogue. Okay? For example, you can say the point you made about, for example, the Middle East is excellent. I would like to add that. Okay? The point you made about women's right in Arab world is excellent. I would like to add that. لحظة الآن. I would like to add that. So he wants to continue the dialogue. Then you can say also, I agree with your comment that some people, they suffer poverty in the Arab world. What do you think about, for example, Sudan? Also, there's another way. I'm with you on that point. What I still wonder about is, I think what you're saying about women's or mother's right is so right. What would happen though if and you keep continuing. Yes, and in fact, or yes, what is more, so you need here to add. Absolutely. Actually, I would go further and say that some women, they lack some of their rights, natural rights. Okay? So all of these are expressions of agreement. So you want to agree, and then after that to add more explanations and examples. Okay? Here we have partial agreement. You're not completely agree. So I don't agree, totally agree, but you know, half-half. I agree with you, but what about women's right in the Arab world? That's a good point, but in my opinion, some women in the Arab world lack some of their rights. That could be applied in some situation, but what about when women ask for their rights? I understand your point that women should be equal, but I don't understand why don't we apply these theories on the ground. It is certainly true that women lack some of their rights, but on the other hand, women have achieved a lot of their goals in educational and political sides. I can see that women lack some of their rights, but I think it's also important to consider the achievements of women of the Arab women in the 21st century. That makes sense, but could it also be true that women have achieved a lot in the 21st century? I would agree with you, but not if. I see what you mean with Arab women lack of rights, but also of some rights, but also I also think we need to consider the achievements of Arab women in the 21st century in education and political sides. So I partially agree with him, but I need to add more. Okay? And here we have kind of constructive disagreement. How can we use these expressions and at the same time how to control our feelings when we disagree with others? This is our problems as Arab scholars, Arab students, or maybe Arab professors. Sometimes, not all the time, some of us, and I'm not talking about all Arab professors and students, I'm talking about specific people. I'm talking about like a group of people. For example, some of them, they are intolerant, impatient, and they always get angry. You know, we need to avoid this emotion, especially in discussions, because when you get angry, it means you are weak. This is how we understand it, okay? So you need to be tolerant. You need to be patient when you disagree with someone. Like unfortunately, on some TV programs, especially the political shows, you start laughing at them because they are shouting at each other and they disagree with them, and sometimes they offend each other. They say something offending words, كلمات مسيئة, to each other. So we need to avoid this. Please, you need to develop these skills while you are conversing with others. I can appreciate your point about it. لاحظوا كيف الآن أقدر نقطته. I can appreciate your point about it, but I can appreciate your point about the women's rights, but I would disagree, because still some women in the Arab world lack some of their rights. Oh, you can say that's interesting. However, from my point of view, women have achieved a lot, and the Arab women have achieved a lot of successes, or have succeeded in the 21st century. That may be the case, but in my experience, the Arab women have been successful in the educational field. I'm afraid I can't agree with you. لاحظوا كيف ما أجملها هذه العبارة. I am afraid I can't agree with you, because Arab women have achieved a lot in the political and economic fields. I disagree. What about the situations where women are teachers, professors, engineers, and businesswomen? I don't think that it is the case, because Arab women have participated in the political decisions in most of the Arab countries. I am not so sure about that, because Arab women have achieved a lot of good doings in the education field. and so on. I don't think your point about women's lack of rights necessarily follows, because kada kada kada. I don't really see it that way, because Arab women have achieved a lot of things in different fields. So this is how can you build a constructive disagreement without being angry. If you look at these expressions, you will find them, they are very important clues to start disagreeing with someone without attacking him or her personally, without offending them. Here we have some things to avoid, and I want you to avoid all of these things. You need to avoid using words like never and always, لأنه ما في شيء مطلق أو دائم. Everything can be changed. Okay? This type of language can easily lead to arguments about the wrong thing and take a discussion completely off track. إذا أنا بدي أحكي women are always, for example, men are always lazy. Men are never lazy. هذه generalizations, and all generalizations are necessarily always incorrect. دائما التعميم هو خاطئ بالضرورة, because you do not pay attention to the smaller groups or maybe to all the larger groups. We cannot say that a group of people is always bad, because people are sometimes bad and these people sometimes are sometimes good. So avoid using never and always. You cannot say the weather in Jordan is always rainy. This is incorrect, because sometimes it is sunny. Or all Jordanian people are educated. Well, some of them are not. So, or all American peoples are attacking Arab peoples. Well, this is incorrect, because as a generalization, some of the American peoples, they support the Arab issues, the Arab cases. And also, we cannot say all Arab people are attacking the West. That's incorrect, because we have educated people who actually are neutral. They speak naturally and normally. Avoid expression disagreement. Then number 2, avoid expressing disagreement without explaining why or supporting your point. So if you have a point, you have to explain why, and then you need to support your point. In a discussion, if you are going to disagree, it is only fair to explain why do you disagree. Sometimes if you say that something is incorrect, or if I disagree with someone, I need to explain why. Unfortunately, there are few people who disagree with others, but without explanation, without having a reason. So we need to avoid the number 2. Number 3, avoid criticizing the person who made the comment. وهذه هي مشكلتنا احنا. دائما ننتقد الشخص، وهذا خطأ. We need to avoid criticizing the person. If you, for example, watch some political shows, you will find some people attacking the person himself or herself. This is actually what we need to avoid. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Just because someone thinks differently does not make them better or worse than you. For example, if I'm having a different point of view than yours, it's not important that, it doesn't mean that I am more important than you. I am better than you, or vice versa أو العكس. لا, each one has his own opinion. Sticking to comments about idea keeps the dialogue interesting and avoids making it personal. And everyone has the right to stick to his own opinions, on comments. There is no need to criticize the person himself. Like, look at your face, you're actually not a good person, you are lying, this is actually, incorrect. We need to avoid it. Just try to deal with the ideas, with the comments themselves. Here we have some instructions how to agree. Sometimes, the body emotions are important to agree with someone. Well, sometimes you nod your head like this. Yes. And this is the simplest way to acknowledge what someone says and that you agree in English. So you just say, yes. So this is one of the simplest way to agree with someone. Wait until it's your turn to speak. لاحظوا ما بصير دائما نقاطع بعضنا في الكلام حتى لو أخذ الطرف الآخر وقته أو زيادة. Wait until your turn to speak. And use expression such as I agree with, I think it is a good idea, I think you are right. So there is no need to interrupt others. This is immoral. هذا مش أخلاقي. And also, we cannot actually sound loudly. دائما some people, they speak loudly just to cover the others. هذا خطأ. Even it's irreligious. هذا irreligious, immoral. Begin by agreeing with what another person has said, but add a qualifier if you do not completely agree. أول شيء يعني تتفق مع بعض الشيء ومن ثم if you have a disagreeing point, just try to say I agree with you but لاحظوا هذا ما نسميه qualifier أو that makes sense هذا معقول however على كل حال لكن or it's a good idea but if you agree with so if you go back to the reference too you will understand more. Just try to connect them by yourself. And I say here, right here, the point number 2. So it's you can mingle them together. Like I think, that makes sense. However, okay, if you agree with everything that the other person says, you can say, I completely agree. You're totally correct or right. Okay? لكن to disagree وهذه النقطة المهمة احنا مشكلتنا لما نختلف مش لما نتفق. To disagree لازم يكون عندك هذه الصفات. Remain calm. كن هادئا. Keep any anger or any disrespect in check. ولا تكن غاضبا ولا تقلل من أدبك تجاه الآخرين. Calmly express your disagreement, all the while respecting the other person's opinions. I respect your opinion, but I am having different point of view. I need to speak calmly, بهدوء. Okay? Use the phrases such as I disagree because you need to explain why I disagree with someone. مش بس مجرد I disagree with you. Why? Because you're a bad person. لا. You don't need to criticize the person himself. احنا لا ننتقد أشخاص. We criticize the ideas. ننتقد أفكار. وهذا هو المهم في الحوار. لكن مش أروح أهاجم الشخص. هذا خطأ. Actually, this is a point of weakness. هذه نقطة ضعف. The problem with that is, so you can also use other expressions like, the problem with what you're saying is, the way I see it is, I'm against it مش I'm against you, I'm against the idea because 1 2 3 4 5. And instead I think that كذا كذا كذا. أيضا you can say I'm afraid that you are right. Okay, before you finish this agreement statement, I am afraid that this point of view or this idea is incorrect. For example, you could say I am afraid I don't agree with you, or I'm afraid I can't agree. Oh, if you do not agree with anything the other person has said, you can say I'm afraid I completely disagree with you. كذلك بالعربية ممكن نستخدمها، بتكون جدا مهذبة. تذكروا الحوار هو بين بشر، فيكون هناك مشاعر، calm expressions, calm emotions without any anger. Notice that when you disagree with someone in English, you need to give a reason why you disagree. It is not enough to simply state that you think the person is wrong and leave it at that. You need to explain your thoughts and opinions fully. أيضا offer solutions when you disagree as well. You need to offer solutions. لازم تقدم بعض الحلول. You may not like the other person's way of looking at a situation, but unless you can come up with a better idea, it may be better to not say anything at all. أحيانا إنك أن لا تفتي في شيء مفيد. So you use phrases such as I think we should, we could, one solution may be. So all of these, please try to build your speaking habits on these actually advices. Notice that these phrases use words like should and could that indicate there may be other solutions that are equally feasible and acceptable. يعني مثلا, you should not say the solution is. لا, لأنه أنت مش بس اللي بتعطي حل واحد، في حلول أخرى. فلذلك لازم شو نستخدم؟ maybe, should, could. لكن ما بستخدم يجب. الحل يجب أن يكون كذا. لا، لأنه في هناك مهما كان موقعك أو قيمتك العلمية، هناك أيضا حلول أخرى. لربما من الحلول الحل قد يكون لازم تترك مجال للصحة للآخرين. So notice that these phrases was like you should use should, could to indicate that there may be other solutions that are equally feasible and acceptable. This is another example of how English speakers generally try not to speak so forthrightly and assert that their opinion is the only one that is correct. So you don't need to say that your opinion is the only correct opinion, مثل ما بنشوف on the TV's political shows. في البرامج السياسية just هذا صح هذا خطأ. لا. Sometimes we have variant of opinions. Here we have some kind of a situation. In agreeing with an unfavorable opinion, you may wish to qualify your agreement with an expression of regret. مثلا واحد حكى his speech was boring. Yes, I'm afraid it was. I have to agree with that that it was. I must say I found it so. In other cases, you can be as enthusiastic as you like in emphasizing your agreement. مثلا, it was an interesting exhibition, wasn't it? Yes, it was. It was absolutely splendid. Very splendid, absolutely splendid. A referendum will satisfy everybody. Yes, definitely, quite absolutely, I absolutely agree. All of these actually expressions are used to show agreement. You can show that you agree strongly with someone's description of something by repeating the adjective they have used and also very and in front of it. you usually use indeed after the adjective. مثلا, it was very tragic, wasn't it? Very tragic indeed. Very tragic indeed. هذه أيضا to show more strongly agreement. The pacing in all these performances is subtle, isn't it? Oh, very subtle indeed. Oh, very subtle indeed. Other ways of expressing agreement are, that's just what I was thinking. You know, that's exactly what I think. That's a good point. لاحظوا the way I say it. لاحظوا الطريقة اللي بحكي فيها. كيف حتى تعابير وجهي تختلف من جملة إلى أخرى. Disagreement. Notice that you need to be, مرة أخرى بدي أركز عليها, that you need to be very polite when disagreeing with someone in English. Even someone you know quite well. حتى your friend. You need to be polite with them. When you deny and contradict what someone else has started, the effect is often impolite unless the denial is qualified in some way. You can qualify it by an apology or by adjusting to the speaker's point of view. By apology or adjusting to his point of view. English is a difficult language to learn. I'm afraid I disagree with you. Some languages are even more difficult, I think. Or, true, but the grammar is quite easy. Yes, but it's not difficult as Russian. Do you think so? Actually, I find it quite easy. And here we have more formal ways of disagreement. University educations does divide families in a way. I cannot go along with that. There would be less guilt which characterized society of early generations. Well, I think I would take issue with that. Okay, so all of these are expressions you can use to disagree and to agree with some. Please try to put yourself in different situation with other person and try to agree and disagree. And remember the advices. Avoid expressions like always and never. Avoid being angry, and follow the instructions that we have provided you. Hopefully you have enjoyed today's class, agreement and disagreement, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.